Welcome to Lachish. Today, when you drive here, just drove here, it's so beautiful, it's so pastoral. You see the grapevines all along the way. In the spring, this is all green. And it doesn't feel like it's very central. It feels like you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and that's nice. But if we travel back in time to First Temple times, to biblical times, this is the second most important city in Judah. And we won't count Jerusalem for the moment. But Hebron, Lachish, those are the two most significant cities. And we are standing right in front of the Tell, the massive archaeological site of Lachish. Now, this place has many stories connected to it, but the two that are most important for us are the stories that are connected to destruction, unfortunately. The first time that Lachish is seriously destroyed, Judahite Lachish, that belongs to Judah, is the story of Sancheriv. And we know that story very well because we see it in two different places. We see it in the archaeology, what's right behind me, I'm going to show you in a minute, and we also see it beautifully, horribly, but beautifully, in palace murals on the walls of Sancheriv's palace. So let's set the scene. We are in the year 705 BCE. The Assyrians, the major power of the time, have come in, conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, sent the 10 tribes into exile, an incredibly devastating moment in Jewish history, and then they continue south towards Yerushalayim and towards Yehuda. Chizkiyahu, the king, pays them taxes for a while, and then he says, I'm not paying anymore. And the Assyrians decide to go on the attack. They first come to Lachish, and they need to get to the top. What do? They build a massive siege ramp. You can see it, thousands and thousands and thousands of stones to get to the top so that they can attack the city. The defenders on the top are very valiant. They protect, they fight back, but the city is destroyed completely. From there, Sancheriv continues to Jerusalem. There already we have a story of miraculous salvation, but Lachish is not saved. Lachish is completely destroyed to the ground. We know the story of Lachish from three places. Number one, the Tanakh, which doesn't tell us very much about this particular story, just that Sancheriv comes here and attacks. Number two, this amazing picture. Right? In the late 19th century, British archaeologists, along with locals in Iraq, discovered the Assyrian palaces at Nineveh. And they discovered that the walls were covered in incredible reliefs. If you want to see the real thing, you got to go to the British Museum because the British took it all home with them. Okay? Now, what are on these walls? What did the Assyrians choose to decorate their palace with? Take a look. Okay? This is the scene of the battle in Lachish. Why would you put this in your reception room? Well, let's say I came to pay my taxes and I'm having second thoughts. Maybe I won't pay this year. And then I look at the walls and I say, oh, that's what happens to people who don't pay their taxes. All right, so you see this very vivid battle scene showing you the siege ramp, right, going up the hill, showing you the battering rams, showing you the flaming arrows that are being shot by the Assyrians, as well as on the top, you have the Judean defenders, which they actually added in over here, throwing down their own flaming arrows and the Assyrians extinguishing it with water, and you have this very dramatic scene. Now, when James Starkey comes here in the 1930s and he excavates, he knows about the relief from Nineveh, and he's curious what he's going to find. And he finds the siege ramp, and he finds the catapult stones, and he finds the arrowheads, and he finds the bones. And this scene of terrific destruction that's enshrined here more than 2,700 years ago is found on the site itself in the Tell. The Assyrians conquer and destroy Lachish, but that isn't the end of the story because it's such an important city that the tribe of Judah comes back here after the Assyrians leave and they rebuild the city, fortify it again. We're looking at the city walls here, very powerful walls, and this is one of a line of fortresses on the western edge of Judah. Let's see what happens to those fortresses with the next threat of the Babylonians. Lachish is one of a line of fortresses, and that's one of the reasons why it's so important. If you look at the map of Yehuda, you can see that we are on the western edge of Yehuda, and you have a line of fortresses that goes from the area of Azekah towards Maresha, towards Lachish. This is protecting the western edge of Yehuda, because beyond this are the Plishtim. And anybody who wants to come and conquer the land of Yehuda is going to have to knock out those fortresses. So besides the fertility of Lachish, it's also a very important defensive site. Now, when they excavated here in the 30s, Starkey discovered this gate, and we have a few gates here, it's a little confusing, but this is the later gate. This is the gate of the end of First Temple times. And of course, in gates in biblical times, you have chambers, all different kinds of things that the gates are used for, commerce and religion and judges. And in these chambers, he found an amazing discovery. He found ostraka, pieces of broken pottery that people used to write on, because they didn't have scrap paper in those days. Right? And these are called the Lachish letters. And in here, he read all these letters, which are clearly from a military commander, perhaps far away, writing to Lachish. Perhaps these are drafts of letters from Lachish. We don't know for sure. But what's important for us is this line in letter number 4. כי אם בבוא הבוקר וידע כי על משואות לכיש אנחנו שומרים ככל האותות אשר נתן אדוני כי לא נראה את Azekah. May my Lord be apprised that we are watching for the fire signals of Lachish according to the signs which my Lord has given, because we cannot see Azekah. What's going on? The land of Judah is being conquered. The dominoes are falling one by one to the Babylonians. And here we are. There's some lookout, some sentry, and he says, I can't see Azekah anymore. Azekah has fallen to the Babylonians, and there's only you, Lachish. You are the only one that's still standing with this onslaught of the Babylonian army. Now, fascinatingly enough, in the book of Jeremiah, which of course is happening at the same time, we have exactly these two cities that are mentioned. Okay, what's going on here? Jeremiah 34, Lamed Daled. He's talking to Tzidkiyahu, the last king of Judah. V'chel melech Bavel nilchamim al Yerushalayim v'al kol arei Yehuda hanotarot. The fighters of the king of Babylon are fighting in Jerusalem and all of the cities of Judah that are left. El Lachish ve'el Azekah. The only two cities in Yehuda that are still standing, Lachish and Azekah, exactly like it's written in the letters here. And I want you to picture here the destruction and the fear that's happening. The Babylonians are encroaching. They are coming closer and closer and closer. They have taken down the fortresses in the west, and they are making their way to Jerusalem, where the final destruction, the greatest destruction of all, that of the temple and of the community in Jerusalem, is about to happen. Very devastating, very terrible, and the second destruction of Lachish within less than 2 centuries. But we're going to finish with something a little bit more happy. The same Jeremiah, the same Yirmiyahu, the prophet of doom, that's usually how we associate him. He is in the pit, he is in the Chatzer Matara, and he gets a message from God to go and to make a real estate purchase. Go buy some land. And Yirmiyahu doesn't understand. He says the armies of the Babylonians are at the gates. Here they are. He says, God, I know you're a great God, right? But hine hasolilot ba'u ha'ir lilachda va'ha'ir nitna biyad ha'kasdim ha'nilchamim aleh. The siege forces are coming to capture the city. The Babylonians are about to take it. Mipnei acher v'hara v'hadever v'asher dibarta haya v'hincha ro'eh v'ata amarta elai Hashem Elokim k'nei lecha. You tell me, God, go buy a field because one day you're going to come back here to the land of Judah? That doesn't make any sense. I don't believe that. And God says, first of all, I'm God, right? I can do everything. Don't worry. Don't think that it won't happen, right? But he says that they are going to be returning. I'm going to bring you back from the lands that I have exiled you to with all that anger. And I will put you here with security. And I will be your God, and you will be my people. And here we are in Eretz Yisrael, in the beautiful, being discovered, being restored Tel Lachish. And thank you, everyone.